Hi creatives, welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Creative Light 001. If today is your first time of stopping by, you are welcomed. In today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful dress. If this is something you're interested in, keep on watching. The fabric I have here with me is light crepe fabric. And I have here with me 3 years for this tutorial. Let's get started with the drafting. So the first thing you're going to do is mark 1 inch and rule it across. This 1 inch will serve as the top line, right, or the starting point. So you're just going to label it top line. Please, I'm sorry, my voice is not so good in this video, and also ignore the background noise. Thank you. The next measurement to take is your shoulder measurement. So whatsoever your shoulder measurement is, you divide it by 2 and put it down and mark it. After the shoulder measurement, you put your neck measurement. So for my neck width, I used 3 inches, right? On that shoulder point, I came down by 1 inches. That 1 inches is the shoulder slope, right? So I connected that 1 inch to the neck width, the 3 inches neck width. For the neck depth, I also used 3 inches, right? So if you're on a big side, you can use 3.5 or 4 inches, right? So I connected the 3 inches. The next measurement I took was the chest line. So whatsoever your bust measurement is, you divide it by 6 and add 1.5 to it, right? And mark it. That will serve as your chest line. So you measure from the shoulder to get a straight line, right, for the chest line. And rule it across. Then you label it the chest line, right? After that, the next measurement you're going to put is the shoulder to waist measurement. So whatever your shoulder to waist measurement is, you put it down, then you rule across. After the waist measurement, the next measurement is the hip measurement, the shoulder to hip. So whatsoever your shoulder to hip measurement is, you put it down, you mark it. And rule across. On the chest line, you put the shoulder measurement on the chest line. You connect it to the shoulder point. You divide the line by 2. You can easily just fold it this way, get the midpoint, right? Then mark it. On that midpoint, you go in by 1/2 inch, right? On the chest line, you put 1/4 of your bust measurement. So whatsoever your bust measurement is, you divide it by 4 and put it. Just mark it there. On the waist, whatsoever your waist measurement is, you divide it by 4 and mark it, right? Also on the hip, whatsoever your hip measurement is, you divide it by 4 and mark it. Then you label the lines. After labeling the lines, the next thing to do is to connect the hip to the waist with your French curve and your waist to your chest line, right? At that waist point, I just blended it a little. To connect the armhole, you're going to connect from the shoulder slope to the midpoint and from the midpoint to the chest line, to the bust measurements, right? So I'll cut it out. I initially added sewing allowance to this pattern, but I cleaned it off. I'll be adding the sewing allowance to the fabric when I'm cutting the fabric, right? So you just cut it out. For the back, you mark 1 inch zip allowance, right? I like adding my zip allowance to my pattern. Then you place your front pattern after the 1 inch zip allowance, right? Then you mark the points, the waistline, the bust line, and the hip line, right? You also mark the shoulder point and the neck point. I later brought the front pattern and curved the armhole because I didn't do it here. After that, I took out the front pattern. On the waist point, you can go in by 0.5, 0.75 or 1 inches depending on your size and the shaping you want, right? So that's 0.75 I took at that waist point. I put it back after that initial waist measurement I marked, right? I hope you understand me. If you don't understand me, go over this video again. Then from that waist point, I connected it to the chest line. Then on the hip line, I came up by 3 inches. Then I connected it to the waist. The next thing to do is to curve the sides, to connect the sides. So the hip measurement is still the same. It's only the waist measurement that was altered because of that back shaping, the waist shaping, right? It was only the waist measurement that was altered. So I brought back the front pattern so that I can be able to get the armhole and the shoulder sloping. For the back neck, I came down by 1 inches, right? You can do 1 inches, you can do 1.5, depending on your choice. Then I curved it. On the zip point, the zip side, you just make that place straight. Don't use a curve ruler for that zip point, right? The zip allowance is 1 inches, right? So on that waist point, that's 0.75 I went inside. That is the point I'm going to mark my 1 inch zip allowance. Then mark it down, and also that chest point, I'm going to connect it from the waist to the chest point and from the waist to the hip. That's 3 inches mark I went above, right? So the back pattern is ready. I'm just going to cut it out. Then cut out the neck. Label it front pattern. Then from the side of the front, I came down by 4 inches from the waist, right? Then I used a curve ruler and connected it to that waist point, the center front of the hip rather. Cut it out. I did the same thing for the back. I came down by 4 inches from the waist point and connected it to the center back. I cut it out. For the front pattern, I came down by 3 inches. Right, you can use 3 inches, you can use 4 inches, depending on how deep you want the opening to be, right? So at that neck, I came out by ½ inches. Then I connected the ½ inches to the 3 inches, right? Then cut it out. The pattern is ready. The next thing to do is to transfer it to fabric. When transferring it to your fabric, you add your sewing allowance. For the side, you add 1.5 or 1 inches. Then the armhole, shoulder, neckline, you can use ½ inches, right? For the bottom, you use ½ inches too. So for the zip allowance is already in the pattern, so no need to add extra zip allowance. I went ahead to cut a strip of 1.5. You can use 1 inches by 10.5, which I'll use to turn that keyhole point, right? You sew it, then turn it, fold it inside. Then I placed my back fabric on top of the front fabric, right side facing each other. Then I'll stitch on ½ inches. So I've turned the keyhole neck and also the shoulders. I went ahead to cut a long strip of about 27 inches. You can use more if you want your strip to be long. 27 inches by 1.5. I placed it right side facing each other from the zip area. Then I stitched it. The next thing I did was to turn it to the back, the inside. Then folded the strip like you see me do. I folded it twice from that zip point to the end of the strip. So that is what you would do. You just fold it, make it to be straight and neat, right? Then you stitch it to the end of the strip. So I've stitched it. The next thing I did was to turn the fabric right side facing each other and stitch the side with 1 inch sewing allowance. For the zip area, I used a loose stitch because I'll be losing that part. Then from the down point of the zip, I came up by 3 inches. That point, I used the regular stitch because I wouldn't be losing that particular 3 inches point. I hope you understand me. For the gathers, I have 17 inches by 3 yards for the second layer, right? And for the first layer, I have 13 inches by 3 yards. So I place them together. Then I'll make a loose stitch at that top side. Then for the down, the hem, I'm just going to fold it this way. I'll do that for the two. The next thing to do is to measure the down of the dress in order to get the measurement for the gathers. It is this measurement you get for this place you use to draw your gathers. I've drawn my gathers. Now I want to attach it, right? So I'll just place it from that center point. I marked the center of the gathers, right? So I'm just going to place the center of the gathers to that center point and pin it. Then I took it over to the sewing machine and stitched it round. So I've stitched it round and also attached zip to the back of the dress, right? The next thing I did was to cut the sleeve. For the sleeve, I have 20 inches unfold by 14.5 inches length, right? So when you open it, it's going to be 40 inches by 14.5. So I'm just going to make a casing for elastic at that place, right? The top part, I'm just going to pleat it around the armhole. I've attached the sleeve, but I'll be explaining to you what I did. For the elastic, you measure your round sleeve and subtract 3 to 5 from it depending on the stretch of the elastic. Then you take safety pin and pass it through that elastic casing. You pin the ends, then sew half inches down, right? So I've stitched half inch down. Then I'll get the center of the fabric, right? Then notch it. I'll fold the fabric again into two this way, then I'll notch it. To attach the sleeve, you take the sleeve right side facing each other, the right side of the main fabric and the right side of the fabric, right? But the fabric is at the back, but you place the right side. I hope you understand me. If you don't understand me, you watch this part again. Then you pin those same points. You get the midpoint of the sleeve and also the midpoint of the shoulder, right? And pin it. You get the midpoint of the armhole and pin to that notch, the second notch you did on the sleeve. You pin the other side of it. The next thing you're going to do is to pleat it. You pleat it around the armhole, right? And our dress is ready. Please ensure to weave the inside of the dress, right? If you found this video useful, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment. If you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever I upload new videos. Bye for now.